So here we are. Welcome back to the podcast. This is the Blockchain Show. Today we're getting back into it after a kind of a hiatus. So definitely excited to welcome Tom Kiddle, the co-founder of Palisade. Tom, if you wouldn't mind telling us about yourself a little bit, and just want to welcome you to the show. Thank you for coming.
Cool, Ethan. Great to meet you, and thanks for having me on. Yeah, sure. So my name's Tom. I'm the co-founder of a company called Palisade. In really simple terms, Palisade is a digital asset custody and wallet infrastructure provider. And I'm sure we're going to talk a bit more about Palisade, but my background really is in engineering, software engineering. I've spent 15, 20 years building out solutions across different industries, but I've spent a lot of time in the payment space, building out e-commerce solutions, retail payment solutions. And prior to founding Palisade, I spent a lot of time building out solutions to the problems associated with cross-border payments. And so I spent 5 years at Ripple, working on their fiat payment infrastructure, but also, thinking about how we can optimize payments, cross-border payments specifically, with the use of digital assets such as XRP in that case, and stablecoins. One of the things that we learn a lot about, over the past 3-4 years is how critical wallet infrastructure is to payments, stablecoin use cases, and really just about every use case you can think of in Web3. So my tenure came to an end at Ripple about 3 years ago. I left on really good terms, have a very good relationship with Ripple today. And we left, my co-founder and I left the company really to sort of start a new adventure. And that adventure was really driven by this idea that everything in Web3 starts with a wallet. And what I mean by that is that every operation, every interaction, every product that's built, every user that holds digital assets really interacts with the blockchain through a wallet, and more technically through a private key by signing those transactions. And so we're on a mission today really to enable product teams to rapidly build and scale their Web3 operations. And we do that, we add value there through wallet infrastructure, specifically MPC wallet infrastructure, but also through regulated custody.
That's excellent. Back when you founded Palisade, how difficult was it to have these kind of conversations, maybe to people who weren't savvy with blockchain or cryptocurrency, cross-border payments? I guess the question is like, how difficult was it to explain what you were doing to people? I'm thinking parents, grandparents, that type of generation.
Yeah, I think fortunately enough, there is already sort of a paradigm for this. When we talk about wallets, everyone can relate to a wallet. Whether it's the app on your phone for your fiat bank account, that kind of acts as a wallet. Your PayPal account, that kind of acts as a wallet. I think where it gets difficult is when you then start to talk about the nuances between a banking app and a Web3 wallet. And there are so many different levels to that. There's like the way the key is provisioned, who holds the key, what's the difference between non-custodial wallets and custodial wallets. And so I think, definitely it depends on who you're speaking to, but you try to abstract as much of that away from the conversation as you can, and relate it back to things that people understand. I think as the crypto industry matures, lots of the conversations even I have today with people who now know about crypto and digital assets that are not technically savvy, they care less about that. And now they're starting to see actually the benefits of digital assets in payments and things like that. But I think in the early days, back in 2016, 2017, when I first got into Web3, people just didn't get it at all. The great thing now, as I said, is like the conversation is changing slightly, and now it's more about use cases rather than the underlying technology.
Yeah, very well said. Fortunately, it's very popular right now with the kind of the recent rise in value in a lot of cryptocurrencies. It seems like, once the hype builds up, people get interested again. The challenge in maintaining people's interest in the space seems to be kind of tied to whatever's going on in the news cycle. I don't know if you can speak to that specifically, maybe where you're at right now, and maybe some global trends. Yeah, has this recent kind of rally in crypto affected business at all, or maybe just any insights over these kind of rise and fall periods that we see over the years?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd say anytime there is a bull run like we're starting to see now, and over the years we've seen this. If you've worked at crypto companies before, you'll know that whenever there's a bull run, there is a steep rise in inbound, and especially in the wallet industry and the custody space. As soon as asset prices start to go up, people then start thinking, well, maybe I should diversify and stake some assets here, or have a portion of my portfolio with this custodian. And so we've definitely seen an increase in interest over the last few months. In terms of trends, I have a payments background. So does my co-founder. So we've always been interested in this, the synergies between wallets, custody, and payments. And I think definitely to the industry's credit, like we've been working very, very hard on developing different use cases over the last few years. But we're now seeing a lot of uptake and a lot of interest in payments, which to me is amazing, because it's like represents the first real use case. I think a year or two ago we were talking about CBDCs, and there was a lot of alarm in the industry. How is this going to play out? What does this mean for everyone? I think stablecoins are slightly different, and stablecoins we're seeing immediate, real world value. We saw with the recent Bridge acquisition, there's a clear use case there. And so I think for me personally, this is the first, I'd say this is beyond a trend, but it's definitely something that is being spoken about a lot now. This is the first real world use case for blockchain that I'm particularly excited about.
Yeah, that's excellent. How do you set yourself apart from some of the larger competitors in the space?
Yeah, sure. Palisade is somewhat unique in the sense that we offer pure technology solutions that are built from the ground up to enable product teams to get to market quicker, and also abstract away all of the complexities of security, whilst offering the end users like this Web 2 like experience. And so if you're an end user that's using a Palisade wallet under the hood, you might not even know it's there. You might see the address. It depends on how the product is packaged. But it's like, let's stop talking about the technology, and let's just offer like technology to product teams that offers the best user experience for their users. But on the side of that, we also offer like regulated custody, and they're two very different things. So regulated custody is sort of very well suited for institutions who are holding large treasury, for example, and they're managing that treasury. It's usually low volumes. There's usually not a product being built on top of it. And we're unique in the sense that we offer both of those. So we can go after two different sort of user types who are doing two very, very different things. But if you spend time building out wallet infrastructure and you listen to the industry and what the needs are, we're different in a number of ways. So pricing is super transparent at Palisade. We focus on developer experience. So one of the metrics that we're super obsessed with at Palisade is what's that developer experience like? How long does it take to integrate Palisade? We're not talking months as you would be with some other providers. We're talking days. And so it's a slightly different approach where we can combine both regulated custody and technology, but we're super obsessed about that developer experience and enabling those product teams to get to market sooner.
Yeah, I can appreciate that because it seems like everywhere I go now, there's a wallet to choose from, which on one hand is excellent, but it's also kind of like a analysis paralysis type of deal where my email client is offering me a wallet now, my browser's offering me a wallet. There's wallets everywhere.
I think that's a really good point, and it's true. Like you go on the App Store today, you type in crypto wallet, and you probably get 1,000 results. What's important to us is a few things, like how we look at the industry and the direction things are going. We think there's going to be more regulation. We think that over time there'll be less emphasis on technology, and we'll be talking less about that technology. And so the view that we have is that you mentioned like choice paralysis there. We shouldn't be in a world where we have so many options and you could make this mistake of choosing like a wallet that provides you with inferior security. You really shouldn't know much about the wallet at all. We're not focused directly on the retail user. We're focused on providing solutions to businesses. And the infrastructure that we provide them is really designed to make the wallet disappear. And so, we think about the world of crypto in the future being one where you don't even know the wallet exists. It's just provided to you by default. It's like baked into the product. It's there to serve a specific purpose. And instead of you sitting there thinking about your wallet and your private key and your address, it's just kind of there. And what you're focused on is using the product.
That's really good perspective. I want to get into regulation. I want to get into security and some of the innovation you guys are working on. I suppose the best approach here would be, what are some of your top concerns and priority? Maybe you could tell me like some of the biggest challenges you've faced while building Palisade, and some of the key things you're addressing and even excited about solving.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, number one priority at Palisade is security, and it should be for any wallet company that exists. And so, every decision we make is led by, okay, well, how does this impact our security architecture, our security posture? And so that's sort of like forefront of everything we do. But really, when we're engaging with developers, it's about, okay, how do we add value to that developer or that product team? And we've learned over the last couple of years that many of our competitors, who have maybe been in the market a lot longer, they're providing really like shallow integrations with blockchains. And as we progress in the industry, and we're now talking about stable coins and tokenization, we're seeing that those providers are actually falling short on the developer experience because they just can't cater for some of these new use cases coming out. And so Palisade's, one of our unique characteristics is really the depth and breadth of integrations. So if we onboard a new blockchain, for example, we'll support every primitive that blockchain offers. And that means that anyone building on top of it can really use and utilize every single feature of the blockchain. And we've definitely seen really positive feedback from developers because of that. The XRP ledger is a great example. Today, through Palisade, you can interact with Ripple USD, XRP. You can trade on the DEX. You can build games, payments platforms. You could do anything because you can use every single feature of the ledger. And so we think about security as a sort of like a first principle, first priority. But then it's like, okay, beyond that, how are we adding value? And it's got to be, do we have the integrations that the developers or product teams need? And then how deep does that integration go?
Wow. What a massive undertaking that must be. I hats off to you guys.
Yeah, I just say one more thing. I think we also have this view of the world that there's not going to be 50, I don't know, 10,000 blockchains winning. We think there's going to be a point in time where you have clear winners. across different use cases. So at the moment, I think we're in this phase where lots of blockchains are still competing. But I think over time, we'll have blockchains that do very, very well at one or two things. And you have winners in those categories. They'll have the most liquidity, they'll have the most developers, most users for a specific use case. And so like we're taking a few bets on what those chains might be. And instead of like integrating every single blockchain there is, we're saying, okay, right, there's 10, 15, 20, 30 blockchains that we think are going to do really, really well. And so we're going to do super deep integrations for those chains.
Yeah, that's a very sound approach. And you mentioned being able to support all these different blockchains. And yes, there used to be that kind of that mindset of which blockchain is going to win. You know, you got MySpace, you got Facebook, and that kind of thing. And now it's just, I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking about the future and how all of this is going to kind of meld together. So it's just refreshing to hear your take on it, that you know, everything in the background for the end user, you know, it's handled. In America, it's such a turbulent time right now. Even within crypto, I mean, it's starting to feel like the Wild West again in terms of regulation, adoption. I don't know if you're following what's going on here with like our election and regulation on crypto. I mean, I live in California, so we're for whatever reason, there's a lot of regulation happening here to the point where most people can't stake a lot of their favorite coins anymore. So we'll see if that changes.
I think, obviously I'm from the UK, and so I follow what's happening in the US and other parts of the world from like an outsider's perspective. But from the outside, it certainly looks like there's an opportunity in the US to rethink the approach to crypto and digital assets. Now, I think more broadly, that issue with staking and some of the conservative approaches that we've seen in the US by the SEC, we're also seeing in other places as well. Our view at Palisade is that there's inevitably going to be more regulation. And so you mentioned the Wild West, where you could argue that we're still in a state of the Wild West, but we've come a long way since 2016, 2017, 18. I was having a great conversation this morning with the stablecoin issue, and we were talking about exactly this. It's like, what's the future of like non-custodial wallets and retail wallets? And it's probably something like we have today, where you have these gateways or these companies that are providing financial services. Those are all regulated, and to obtain a wallet, you need to go through KYC. Now, I don't think that's a terrible idea. At the end of the day, regulation is all about consumer protection, and at the moment, we are still in that state of, I guess, is a bit like being in the Wild West, but we've come a long way. I think the US, getting back to the US, I think the US has a great opportunity here to mix things up and rethink the approach to digital asset regulation. I'm not sure if that aligns with what you think and what you're hearing over in the US.
Well, it's reassuring to hear that. I mean, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen. On one hand, the Trump administration is supposedly supposed to be crypto friendly, which positive. But on the other hand, it's Trump.
Yeah,
it is what it is, and it's like 2016 all over again. But on the other hand, 2016, 2017 was a good year for blockchain. So, all politics aside, it's going to be a wild ride for sure. But I am hopeful, and I like what you said. So,
yeah. I'm certainly not an expert in US politics, but if we think, I'm an optimist. So, and I think as much as you may like or dislike Trump, he seems to think about things through the lens of running a business. And so I think he'll probably see this as an opportunity for the US to start to get ahead. I recently came back from the UAE. We were sat down with the DIFC and the regulators there, and the way they think about regulation is so refreshing. It's not like how can we. It's certainly about consumer protection. There's no doubt about that. but that doesn't necessarily seem to stifle innovation over there. They're thinking about how can we attract as much talent as possible and be as innovative as possible in order for the economy to grow and us to sort of grow as a nation. And I think I'm not going to say over here in the UK, it's very, very different. We have many, many layers of red tape and bureaucracy. And I think that makes it very, very hard for the regulators to be able to move quickly. So two very different approaches. But I think in the US, as I said a moment ago, you have potentially a really great opportunity here to start getting ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that outlook. We talked a little bit about regulation. I'm kind of curious to hear your take on the innovation and what's going on in the industry. Over the last few years, crypto ETFs became pretty popular. Obviously, there's a lot more interest during this market valuation that we're going through. As the industry evolves, what role do you think that digital asset custodians like Palisade are going to play in kind of fostering the mainstream adoption of cryptocurrencies?
I think it goes back a little bit to what I was saying earlier. I think custodians and wallet infrastructure providers, whilst there are many, there's different use cases for custody and wallet infrastructure. But I think broadly speaking, custody and wallet infrastructure is as foundational as the blockchain itself. Without that, you really can't utilize the blockchain. And so, okay, maybe it's the next step up, but it is as critical as the blockchain itself in many ways. And so I think as time goes on, we'll see less talk about the technology, and the wallet will just be sort of like part of our everyday life, whether it's the wallet for the retail user, the product team, or custody for the larger institutions. Custody specifically is obviously critical to ETF issuers and ETF holders. But I think they're two different things. So qualified custody is a thing of its own, and is really geared towards large financial institutions, but is critical for ETFs to even exist. But I think over time we'll see this just baked into the operations of institutions, retail users, product teams. But it's absolutely vital that it's there. Without this infrastructure, we're back to 2017, where we were seeing billions of dollars being, lost, stolen. Even up until recently, we've seen it with FTX, the misappropriation of funds. If you had a custodian in there, with segregated balances and then better provisions in place, you could have prevented some of that. So absolutely critical for the progress of the industry, for sure.
Yeah, FTX, that was a dark stain on this whole industry. Talk about the Wild West. That was a wild story, man.
You still have to pinch yourself sometimes to sort of like, it's hard to believe that was a thing that happened. Just a crazy story. Absolutely. I don't think we've seen anything like that since, and I hope we don't see anything like that again. But what we are seeing still is hacks into wallet infrastructure, into product teams, and through product teams like security architecture. Those are not going away. We're seeing less of them. But I think you can Google it now. You'll see 10 hacks in the last few months for non-trivial amounts, and I think that just further highlights the need for custodians.
Yeah, absolutely. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of see Palisade offering businesses kind of like a bridge into DeFi, Web3, as some people call it, and it maybe I'm pessimistic, but a lot of this time in this space, which is hilarious because it's been almost 10 years for me, I feel like it's, it's too late. I've missed out. But then you take a step back and you look at the state of the world and how things are working, and it's like, oh no, this is it. This is the time. There's huge opportunity still. I don't know if you could explain how you pitch this to businesses that are just now exploring these solutions to make that transition securely, some of the obstacles for them, because, like you're talking about huge amounts of money that sometimes go missing. It's got to be a very difficult conversation sometimes to establish trust. But I'm just kind of curious on how that process works.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all remember Blockbuster. I used to go to Blockbuster as a kid. As every payday, my parents would take us to Blockbuster. We'd choose a movie, and we'd have a great night as a family. Blockbuster, they couldn't keep pace, right? They couldn't keep up with the shift in technology, essentially. And if they'd moved to digital, maybe they'd still be here today. There was nothing really stopping Blockbuster from becoming, the Netflix. I often think like how cool that would have been if they had an online platform with, all of these video films, movies, videos, etc. that the Netflix does today. And so we at Palisade sort of think, well, we're probably going to see the same here. I'll use payments companies as an example. There are thousands of PSPs, payments companies in the UK, and it will be the ones that don't transition into Web3 that will become the blockbusters. And that's because they'll lose customers, because the payments will become more expensive, they'll be slow, and they just won't be attractive products anymore because they can't keep pace with the payments companies that have transitioned. So I hate to say that we're early, because I don't think we're super early anymore, but there is so far to go. There's such a long way to go. And I think we're really just scratching the surface. Not every product, not every use case has to be built on blockchain. But I think there is a significant a portion of companies that inevitably will move to blockchain because it adds so much benefit to their operations. I use payments as an example there, but I think there's other services, there's other industries as well that will do the same.
Yeah, very good. Well, looking forward, if there's anything that you're excited about that you'd like to leave us with, or maybe you could speak to some goals for the next year or so, I just kind of want to give you the floor here to leave us with any closing thoughts, and also, how our listeners can learn more about Palisade or possibly connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think next year for us is all about coming out of this early-ish stage of the company's journey, and really going after as many like payments use cases as we can add value to. We've built out some incredible technology over the last couple of years for wallet infrastructure specifically geared towards payment companies and companies tokenizing assets. And 2025 is going to be us demonstrating that to the market. We've got some incredible MPC technology coming out. And so next year is all about us demonstrating that and sort of getting as many builders and product teams on that. In terms of where you can find us on Twitter or X now at Palisade Inc. Or you can reach out to me at tkiddle@palisade.co.
That's excellent, Tom. It's been a really insightful conversation. I want to thank you very much for joining me, sharing your expertise on this, evolving world and oftentimes complex, global regulatory landscape. But it's been really great to speak with you. Thanks again.
Great. Thanks so much, Ethan.